Hi there, welcome to Nighttime Line Talks. Hola amigos, bienvenidos a Charlas de la Noche. Tonight I just hang off the phone with the assistant or the press attaché of the International Center of Studies, Carter. In Atlanta, President Jimmy Carter has the Center of Studies that contributes to the long way democratic peace and long time justice in many countries. In past elections in Mexico, as per the request of the past governments and opposition parties, President Carter, Jimmy Carter, attends as observer such elections. It is very imperative to crystal clear that President Carter's presence in Mexico in past elections brought peace on the election process, brought honesty because they have people in many poll centers, and at the time people cast their vote. It is done with integrity, and they don't intervene, they just kept that all official protocols are followed up in accordance to the electoral laws in Mexico. And I would like to put the audio of the conversation I have with the Miss Jeannie Lincoln, a person in charge of media on the Carter Center, who was very nice, very kind, and provides me all the details on this regard. Due to the coronavirus pandemic, the Center for Studies Carter in Atlanta is closed. So I have to find her personal connection with some friends, and the good advantage of being research coordinator on Turner Broadcasting System allows me to have a huge agenda with many names and phone numbers to contact people right away. Let's go to listen Miss Jeanine because it's important what she says.
He is there helping, and his presence gives a lot of peace to the election process.
Well, I'm very honored. I'm very honored that you feel this way. I feel this way, of course, too. But I need you to know, first of all, that we have no invitation. There's a process. We can't just go to a country to observe the elections. There has to be an invitation. And so when you were asking, were we planning or had we, I can't remember how it began, but anyway, that's the first piece of information that you need to know. So we have not been invited to. Now, I agree with you about the characterization of the elections next year in Mexico. Yes, I think they will be very challenging and very polemical. But that's how it starts. And we also always require that we be welcomed by all sides, the government and the opposition. So that's where we are, and I don't know what else to tell you at this point.
Well, Miss Jeanine Lincoln, many times President Carter being present, and Mexicans recognize that his process from the Carter Center brought and support enhancing the peaceful elections and enhancing also the democracy. So if there is not official request from the Mexican government, is any other channel that can be used to make possible President Carter be there?
Not really, but interestingly enough, and almost every country where there's a difficult election, if the opposition or if groups want him to be there, then there's a process through INE. I mean, the INE would be the entity that would be inviting people to be observers. Even like the OAS, for example, there has to be an agreement with the government for the OAS to be observing the elections. For any significant group, you can't just go, because there's a reason. You have to have access to the process. You have to have access to the information about the process. And that means that the electoral officials, which are the government, need to grant that to an observer organization. So it's not just, you can't just decide to go, or you are an electoral tourist. You're not a true election observer, because you wouldn't have access to the process, to be able to be inside, to have access to the computer systems, to the people who are running, who are administering the government or the election. Otherwise, then you're just on the outside watching people go into the polls to vote, and you don't have the full picture.
You're right, Miss Jeannie Lincoln. Thank you so much. And can I use your comments to explain to my boss this?
Absolutely, yes.
And in the meantime, can I also ask you keep my phone number in case you receive official notification? Let me know.
Yes, and I wouldn't be surprised if we do. We often get invitations. Now, the other thing is that you need to know, especially in this day and age, just because we get an invitation is not an automatic trigger to be able to do an election observation. There are funds. We have to be able to fund a mission, and that also depends on donors and whether or not we are able to put together the funding for. So it's not just because we would get an invitation doesn't mean we would automatically be able to organize the mission. So you need to understand that too.
Thank you, Ms. Janine. Sorry for bothering you. I hope, because this time is late in the afternoon, but congratulate your father and your husband.
Oh,
and
thank you.
Please keep us posted. And you are so professional, because I make you work an extra hours. And say hello to President Carter. I am a big fan.
Thank you. And you have my phone number now.
Yes.
So please feel free, if you have other questions or additional information, please feel free to call me.
I will, Ms. Janine. And Lord bless you, and have a good weekend.
Thank you. And my name is Jenny. It's Jenn. It's okay. It's JENNIE. Jenny, 6 letters.
I got it.
Jenny Lincoln.
Perfect. Nice last name.
And my husband is Frank.
Oh, thank you. Say hello from me and give him a big hug on Father's Day.
I will do that.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Have a blessed day. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it.
As you heard, is the whole audio of this phone call from Miss Jeannie Lincoln, Director of Communications of the Carter Center in Atlanta, who is coordinating many efforts, not only this, and she takes care of all journalist requests. She was so kind and helpful. For the people never been on the Carter Center in Atlanta, it really deserves a visit when you come. because there is a museum with details of all the President Carter administration and all the peace efforts for the Middle East. And I can spend the whole broadcast telling you how many things President Carter did during his administration to bring peace to the world. But after he left the White House and he started this center of studies, he started to visit many countries with emerging democracies. And he goes as an observer the democratic process, and you heard in my interview, is not only go. They really have an institutional part of the process with observers, and must to be involved all organizations, the current government, the opposition parties, and everybody has to agree with this observation process. Plus, they must provide the sponsorship, because it's a huge team of people that visit the country, in this case Mexico, provide hotels, meals, transportations, and many things. So, but this is a great activity because means a guarantee of a clean election for Mexico. On 2021, if Mexican government have not request the presence of the President Jimmy Carter, Miss Jeannie Lincoln mentioned that they are still on time to do it and provide all the elements. All the opposition parties and candidates have to agree with it, and there are some rules for everyone or every part involved to follow up according the international normativity for elections. So let me make a compromise with my audience, and I will follow up with the Mexican government and opposition parties and all other organizations involved on this regard. So it's time to start to plan very well the Mexican election, because it's important that President Andrés Manuel López Obrador, who really won the election in 2018, very clean, more than 30 million votes goes with him, and he starts very well. People was very supportive to President Andrés Manuel López Obrador. I don't know what happened with him. Months later, he started to change, and he started to do some actions that were out of the government plans. And the first warning his administration had was when the Treasury Department, the Mexican Treasury Department director quit. And he denounced publicly that he will not be able to do what the president ordered to do on the Treasury Department. And he quits. Starting that, the President López Obrador created a lot of confusion on the population, entrepreneurs, business leaders, and other people that has some questions on this regard. And unfortunately, everything started to change. but not according the promises he made on campaign. He called the power mob all the former presidents, and he will make them return the money they steal, is what he promised. He didn't do that. His antecessor, Enrique Peña Nieto, is traveling all over the world, and his companies are working. Only one former attorney is on jail. But due to COVID-19, there is a possibility that he being released very soon. But almost 98% of the promises from his campaign are not met, are not accomplished. And Andrés Manuel López Obrador is calling for a referendum to see if the population likes him on the presidency, because there are too many protests against his actions, against him. People don't like the way he is taking decisions. And people is still doing their own conclusions after what they saw. And as you heard on the interview, Ms. Lincoln heard that there are some polemic situations that they need to confirm, but there is a lot of conflict. Mexico is the country where most people are murdered in the last 3 years, and is the administration of Andrés Manuel López Obrador. Mexico is the country where more journalists are killed lately, and the numbers are exceeding the numbers of people that die in Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan, and Syria combined. So more people is dying in Mexico on the hands of the drug cartels. And it's time to go and cast a vote to stop all these situations that are changing the history of Mexico. And it's sad because, unfortunately, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, he promised the opposite on his campaign. He promised do better things for Mexico, stop violence, raise business, raise productivity, and do many things for the health programs. Well, there are no medications to attend kids with cancer in Mexico right now. Why? Because President Andrés Manuel López Obrador cut all the budgets to hospitals, public hospitals, and they don't have enough medication and materials to take care of people. And now with the pandemic, Mexico is leading the number of dead and infected people in many cities. But the president is not doing his part. In the security field, I don't like to mention the numbers. It's sad, it's frustrating that Mexico is leading worldwide the numbers of dead and killed people. Drug cartels have a lot of immunity from the federal government, to the point that President Andrés Manuel López Obrador go and visit the mother of El Chapo Guzman. And today he recognized that he gave orders to release the son of El Chapo Guzman, the drug dealer famous worldwide, owner of Sinaloa's cartel, the cartel of drugs that has better revenue than the Exxon oil company. And let me put you the audio. I translate for you, but it's unbelievable that he says he ordered release the son of El Chapo Guzman. Listen, it's a very brief audio. It's only 1 minute and a half, but I like to include it.
De cooperación, pero al mismo tiempo de respeto. Y el ejemplo lo da, aunque parezca increíble, el que dé el ejemplo es el presidente Donald Trump. En 2 o 3 asuntos en que hemos hablado por temas delicados, cuando se decidió para no poner en riesgo a la población, para que no se afectara a civiles, porque iban a perder la vida si no suspendíamos el operativo, más de 200 personas inocentes en Culiacán, Sinaloa, y se tomó la decisión. Yo ordené que se detuviera ese operativo y que se dejara en libertad a este presunto delincuente.
He assumed the responsibility as a president of Mexico, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, and says that he decided to release Ovidio Guzman, the son of El Chapo Guzman. And who is Ovidio? A young man who has no morality, who has no education. He is a criminal, and he is leading murder everywhere in the country and managing the drug deals worldwide from the Sinaloa cartel and from the Colombian cartels. It's unacceptable. Many people, many leaders were infuriated when they heard this piece of audio, and the Mexican president says that he was the one who decided release Ovidio Guzman. He mentioned a part with Donald Trump at the beginning, but I don't like to create confusion because I don't have the whole conference. I don't have the whole audio to place track and know what he really was pretending to say. But from my perspective, he just tried to use the name of the President of the United States to create confusion and trouble. But it's not time for a confusion and trouble, because the latest times, the latest weeks, we were surrounded by trouble, confusion, manipulation, fake news, and very bad things. I believe it is time, especially to have a good Father's Day. It's time to say the truth. It's time to help putting crystal clear every situation. And to keep track of the topic, if I put the piece of audio of the Mexican president, is because I like audience have an idea of the mistakes the Mexican president is doing every single day. Every time he opens the mouth, creates trouble and confusion, and generates a lot of uncertainty. Uncertainty that affects international investors, stock market, and generates very bad politics, domestically and internationally. So the Mexican president needs that his election, or try to be to have the constituency to keep going for other 3 years on the power, it has to be a clean election with observers from the Carter Center. And the presence of former President Jimmy Carter is going to be very influential to determine that these elections are clean enough to reveal a real democracy. If nobody do it, it is going to be like when they decide to cancel the airport. He decided, let's go to do a consultation between the population. And they put ballots where people check with arrow marks if they like or don't like the airport, the new airport. But mistakenly, they go to the rural areas where people that never use the airports in Mexico are the ones who have to decide. So they manipulate very well this deal. As well, they manipulate many situations nationwide, creating a lot of trouble, a lot of unnecessary expenses, because they have to cancel the works of a new airport. And they decide transfer the construction of that airport to another place beside a military base, Santa Lucia, beside the Mexican Air Force base, where, ironically, there is a mountain between the runways of the airport. Yeah, there is a mountain, but they say, don't worry, we are going to move a little bit and nothing is affected. But when I spoke with friends who are pilots and experts on aerodynamics, they say when there is a mountain, the wind acts in some direction, and crashing with the mountain increase and change the direction of winds, and that is going to affect directly to the airplanes landing and taking off. So I have no idea how they are managing this project. Is a little bit difficult for me to understand how these projects are canceled from one day to other and resume in other place, in other area of Mexico, and managed by the Mexican Army engineers. I hope they can manage perfectly and do a good job, because Mexicans will pay the consequences of mistakes. I hope they run these projects without mistakes. I hope everything can be done with better quality than the English designer that came to do the first project under a very expensive price. I have to recognize the price of the Texcoco airport was huge, but experts say that it was running well as a project. But the arguments of the Mexican president is that this airport affects a lake close to this airport and should affect the water plants that distribute water in Mexico City. So let's go to see what's happening as soon the Center of Studies Carter receive news about this and receive information from the Mexican government. I'll keep you posted. Thank you. Lord bless America. Lord bless Mexico. Lord bless the world. Have a great Father's Day. I love this date because it's a big cookout. In the one my wife don't limit it how many steaks I eat. But shh, don't say anything. Thank you and have a blessed weekend.